If you ever are thinking about your life, it's like, oh, you know, I haven't sort of achieved anything, I haven't done this amazing things, I've never written a best-selling novel, or I'm not Brad Pitt, I've never done anything, I haven't cured cancer, you know, anything like that. Relax, because it's not actually that complicated, you know? Like, we've got this idea that to be happy in the world, there's some complicated formula, or you've got to, you know, achieve some amazing, magnificent milestone. No, you don't. It's not complicated. It's actually quite simple. Not everybody wants to join the SAS or climb Mount Everest or write a best-selling novel. And that's okay. It's completely fine to have a normal life. But what is it that makes for a better life, a more satisfying life? That's the question I posed back in episode 1. This is the last episode, so I wanted to recap and summarise some of the things I'd learned along the way. First up, we're all a bit neurotic. Really important to remember that. Like, don't look around you at other people and think, oh, they're all quite sane. Man, if they knew what's going on in my head. If we all knew what was going on in each other's heads, none of us would move out of our little bunkers. We would stay inside because the world would be too freaky and scary. A lot of people feel depressed. A lot of people get anxious and worry about things like, did I turn the iron off? Is that safe? Will that thing give me cancer? What's this lump mean? What's this? What's that? You know, a lot of people have obsessions and compulsions. And, you know, we might think our individual ones are sort of quite weird, but lots of people have them. My public bit of neurosis I'm prepared to talk about is whenever I stay somewhere, like a hotel or a motel, I always hide my toothbrush, right? And I'll tell you why. Because I think, I'm sure most people that clean motels and hotels are perfectly fine and decent people that bear no grudges against anyone else. But what if there is someone who wishes they were doing a different job and hates cleaning motel rooms, and so whenever they do, they take your toothbrush and they clean the toilet with it? Because of that, I hide it. So, like, we're all a bit neurotic. You know, we all have our stuff, and it's completely fine and relax about that. Our anxiety isn't just confined to our personal habits, we're just as insecure about our jobs. I think everybody thinks everybody else's life is really exciting, and to be honest, before I did the tele stuff and people knew that I was a psychologist, worked with kids and a bit of forensic stuff, people thought, oh, your life must be so exciting doing all that forensic stuff. The truth is, most criminals are just people with, like, really bad personal hygiene. And criminals on the telly are all in tuxedos hacking into computer systems and abseiling down stuff. But in real life, they're just people that, most of them just need career advice. Do you know what I mean? Like, honestly, I spoke to a bloke once. He was an armed robber, and when I asked him how he got caught, he said that he went into the bank and he pulled his rifle, his gun thing, out of his pocket, which had his address book in it, which he dropped in the bank, held up the bank and escaped, and of course the police cunningly just picked it up, rung a couple of his mates, and that was it. The other one I heard on the radio that was brilliant, to hear about the people in Oamaru after the huge snowstorm, like 20-centimetre deep snow, broke into a dairy in the middle of the night, walked home. The police used their advanced tracking skills. Like, most of my job is actually, it's just as, like, there's interesting and fun bits, but lots of it's boring as well. And that's true of every job. The problem is that we tend to define ourselves by what we do for a living and act as if it says something about who we are as people. But I don't think that's the right way to look at things. We've got this modern thing now that work's supposed to define you. Like, if you don't have a good job, you're not a decent person. Like, we've bumped into someone we've met, haven't seen her for years, and when we asked her what she did, she said she did data entry and then apologised, saying, I'm really sorry. And I thought, like, that's what the world's come to. It's like, if your job is data entry and you're not, like, you know, flying spaceships or, you know, a heart surgeon, you've somehow got to apologise because you're somehow, that's a bad thing, that you're not doing the most amazing job in the world, you know. Some people find fulfilment in their job, and that's great. Other people find satisfaction in their interests outside work and use work as a means to pay the bills. There's nothing wrong with either point of view. We spoke to John Key because when he was a little fella, he wanted to be Prime Minister. We wanted to go and talk to him and say, so, has it made you happy? So, John, when you were a little lad, when you were a small boy growing up, how did you see your future?
Well, when I was about 11 or 12, I wanted to be Prime Minister. But I think, a lot of people when they're that age, I mean, if I go to schools and ask the kids to put up their hands and say, who wants to be Prime Minister, three-quarters of them will. But I was always fascinated by it. I was interested, and I just thought it seemed like this, exciting opportunity to be someone that could, I guess, do something. And it felt special.
And did that stay with you the whole way through?
It did, actually. I mean, when I went into, my banking career, I always wanted to come back and run for politics. And I made the really conscious decision when I was 40 to go and do that. So it wasn't something I just fell into. It was by accident. It was quite well planned in that regard.
I thought I'd try out my theory that all jobs, no matter how good they are, have boring bits, and that work isn't necessarily all it's cracked up to be. But perhaps being the PM is an exception.
I don't think it's like a new car where you have this great dream that you want to get it and then all of a sudden you own it, and for the first couple of months it's fantastic, and after a while it just becomes another car. I think at the point at which this just became a job or another job, then you're probably in the wrong job. You certainly couldn't feel sorry for yourself being Prime Minister. Not many people get that chance.
And what obviously we were hoping he would say is, well, yeah, it's all right, but it brings with it problems and all the rest of it. But I think he's so happy about most things. He just, he's really loving it. He's having a great old time. It's like, oh. The best thing was, in his office, behind his desk, there was a sting. The sword from Lord of the Rings that Bilbo had? Obama gave John Key the sword sting. And we were looking, oh, that's brilliant. And he went, oh, do you want to have a play with it? Oh, brilliant. So we get Sting out, we're waving it around. Now, how it works is that in his office is on the 9th floor, we discovered, and all the security people are downstairs, so they check you out, you get in the lift and you come up to his office, right? And it occurs to me that I'm standing in the Prime Minister's office. There's the Prime Minister, and there's me waving a sword around. And then he says, hang on, and then he pops out the back, and he comes back with a samurai sword from Japan, and he hands that to hang on a minute, and he goes back out again, and he comes back in with something from a Pacific Island, like a great big sort of club thing with these big stone things in the end. So basically, our film crew, we're all waving swords and weapons around in the Prime Minister's office. Outrageous.
Money can't buy you happiness.
Money to a certain extent can buy you happiness, but too much money and you start to lose that sense of reward because you've just got it, you've got all that money, and you can do anything, as opposed to working hard at it and you achieved something.
Yeah, I think money would buy you happiness at first, but then the novelty wears off.
Stuff is just stuff, man. If you're thinking about replacing your manky coffee table that the kids have ruined with a new one, think twice. You do that thing where, you buy a table, and because it's a lovely little table, you think, oh, brilliant, 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 because we'll replace our manky old scratch table that the kids have ruined, and you do that, you replace your manky old scratch table that they used to bang, you get your brand new one in there, and it just makes your life a bloody misery, because then you go, don't scratch, get the stuff off the table, get a coaster, you scratched the table, you've scratched the table, look at that. The new table ruins your life. Stay with a manky old scratch table. It's just stuff. Stuff doesn't make you happy. Experiences make you happy. If you want to spend money on your family and do things that will actually make them feel happier, don't buy stuff with it. Take them and do stuff with it. We went caving at Waitomo, and if there's a choice between buying a coffee table or going and doing that, go and do that, because actually that costs about the same as a coffee table, and your kids will remember that far more than they will the coffee table. At this point, I thought I'd go looking for some people who weren't just talking about these ideas, but were actually putting them into practice. I've come to Jerusalem, tucked away 64 kilometres up the Wanganui River and home to Ron Howe and his family. After 10 years in the city, Ron packed up the whānau and returned to the river, where they've been trying to set up a different kind of lifestyle. What is it about life here, do you think, that brings that kind of sense of happiness and contentment?
Personally, when I came back into the river, being away for 10 years, my mind was structured to working from upper 7 to 5. But that didn't achieve the family, the whānau concept. It didn't really cement me as being a person. And so you have to change with the place. So I change with the place.
Life here is pretty basic. I discovered that milk comes from these things, very much like a cat, really. And if I wanted a snack, I'd have to learn how to shoot. It's about self-sufficiency and community. Ron's always coming up with ideas designed to create jobs and attract more families back from the city. He's instigated a scheme to grow vegetables for the local community and hopes to begin breeding eels to replenish streams as a food source. I was driving down the hill with your nephew and he said that in summer, when the fruit trees are out, you've got fruit everywhere, that falls on the ground, the pigs eat that, the venison eat that. So he said you literally can walk out your back door and there will be pigs. He said all you need in summer is just bread. That's all you need. Because everything else, it's just outside your back door.
Yeah, it's like the supermarket's at the back, you mean?
I really enjoyed my time with Ron and his farm now. They've made a deliberate choice to put values and lifestyle first. And while country living is great, you don't have to abandon the city to feel better in yourself and less stressed. Have a cup of tea, man. Like, from time to time, just have a cup of tea. If you're having a stressful, busy week and you're walking to your car, there's nothing you can do on the walk between your office and your car. You know, if the phone rings, ignore it. Just walk to the car. Notice what it feels like to walk along the street, what the temperature's like, the colours, the stuff that you can see and hear. If you just do that in those little moments in between amazingly stressful stuff, it will make you feel better. The neuroscience says mindfulness is a really effective stress management tool. All the self-help books say if you think about death, that helps you to focus a bit on being happy, because it makes you think, oh, well, it's all a bit pointless ultimately because I'll die, you know. I mean, ultimately the universe will sort of collapse in on itself. Sun's going to explode, so there's no point. It doesn't make me feel happy, so I look for other answers. Steve Jobs said once, remembering that I'm going to die is the best way that I know of avoiding the trap of thinking that I've got something to lose.
What is this place? This is the future, Larry. Your future. I really am dead. Janine, love, I'm over here. They can't hear you, Larry. There's been some kind of mistake. I'm not ready. I've got so much left to do.
The afterlife's full of people like you, Larry. People who leave things too late.
You're not helping.
Pull yourself together, man. Look at the state of you. Look, you've led a good life. You'll be all right.
I have.
You loved your family, Larry. And by the looks of it, they love you. Don't ask me why. No, you did okay. Yo, talk to me. Yeah, righto, bye-bye.
What's that?
It's a bit embarrassing, Larry. In a bit of a cock-up upstairs, you're not dead. You get to go back to your old life.
That's fantastic news.
Don't touch me.
What's that?
The winning lotto numbers, tomorrow's newspaper.
We tend to treat life as if there's some secret formula for success. 10 minutes a day of minimum effort and it'll all be as easy as pie. But life isn't like that. The output depends on the input. You know, like it would be lovely to think there was some magical, mystical answer where you have to do bugger all and your life will be lovely, but it won't. Like, if you sit on the sofa and you mope and don't go out and don't do anything and don't engage with people, you will be miserable. If you're depressed and unhappy, you've actually got to get up and do stuff. Just find a hobby. Find something to do that you like. That might even be watching telly. One of my hobbies is I love watching movies. I count that as a hobby. I'm such a sad bugger that I joined 2 DVD stores, right? So that I could go to one in the morning and then go to another one in the afternoon. Because I thought I looked like a total loser if I go back. Weren't you here 3 hours ago? Ooh. It also helps to accept that things change in life. You change and relationships change. That's normal and it's okay. Like, all relationships start and it's all passionate and lovely and amazing and blah-de-blah. Like, when my wife, we've been going out for quite a long time now, quite a long time actually, and I think it's 20, it's well over, it's like a long time. Anyway, I didn't know it was going to be so long. I thought, well, a couple of years we'll go. It's funny though, like, I'm just like every other bloke. Like, I met her when we were both 18 at university, and I didn't have much of a plan, she had a plan, so I just sort of followed along, really. Because that's what blokes do, because it's like, what's the point of me getting a plan? You've got one, I'll just do yours. And like, hers was a far better plan than mine anyway. And it's like, when you're young, like and those back in the old days when it was like toll calls cost a fortune, and so we knew someone that worked in the post office, and I'd ring them and they'd sort of connect us up, sort of on the quiet, and we'd have this like tour, because I would be studying in Dunedin and she'd be up here in Auckland, and we'd have these 2 or 3 hour long conversations on the phone, and God knows what we'd talk about, but you'd look forward to talk and talk, and now, the thought you'd talk for 2 or 3 hours on the phone now, it's like, oh, so... It's like when you go out, especially when you have children and you've sort of lost your identity as an actual person, you're just a parent. When you go out together, just by the 2 of you by yourselves at a restaurant, it's terrible. Because you know she's going to have the lamb shanks, you know that. She knows you're probably going for the steak. Yeah. Until the kids leave home, always go out with other people, because you don't want to know that you've got nothing in common until they leave home. Go out with other people. Relationships aren't straightforward, which of course was why I was interested when I heard that there was a couple in Hamilton who'd been married for 70 years. Peg and Ray, right, married for 70 years, and like, they're an amazing couple. I said to them, oh, so, you know, how did Ray propose? Think it was some sort of old school romantic thing. Turns out it was much like modern times, really, because she rang him and said, why don't we just get married? And he went, all right. Same thing, man. You just wait. They'll come up with the plan. Oh, yeah, let's do that. Peg and Ray Broadbent were just a couple of teenagers when they first got together in 1938. Both teacher training college students. They love sport, swimming, music, dancing, and they were both tall, so that seemed a good fit. They were married in Waihi in 1941, just ahead of their respective 21st birthdays. Over their 70 years of marriage, they've raised 3 daughters and have 8 grandchildren and 11 great-grandchildren. The 2 of you have been married for 70 years, which a lot of people would find astounding. What are the secrets to staying married for that long?
Well, we're a bit astounded ourselves that we're still breathing, but I think you shouldn't dwell too much on what's gone before or what's ahead, but really make the most of the day you've got. I don't know how you feel about it, Ray. He's pretty easygoing.
I'm in love with my wife and I'm proud of my wife. We seldom have arguments. Life's too short.
So, do you think a sense of humour is important over the long term in a relationship?
Absolutely essential, isn't it, Ray?
Yep. Very strong.
He's got a very dry sense of humour, and I like to find something funny.
So it's important not to take yourself too seriously?
Well, that's where most of the trouble starts. People don't get beyond their own little world. And it's a big world to live in, and, you know, you've got to have a few corners rubbed off if you're going to fit in.
I think Ray and Peg are inspirational and a lesson for all of us. They've managed to not just stay the course, but also to lead happy and successful lives. When I asked them, what would be your 3 big tips? for how people can make relationships last. And they both sort of looked a bit sort of puzzled, really, like they didn't quite sort of know. And he just said, well, you know, just don't carry a grudge, I suppose. And that was, you know, that was basically about it. Ray and Peg were among the most interesting people I met. They not only exemplify many of the principles that we've talked about, they've also successfully negotiated one of life's most important challenges. Relationships are the glue that binds our lives together, and the most fundamental relationship is family. Which is the final point. Family is the point of the whole thing. I don't know if you've ever had that experience. You go away for work stuff and you're really looking forward to it, and then you go away and you do the work stuff, and it's quite nice when you're away, but at the end of the day you're sort of sitting there and you're thinking about, like, you're missing out stuff with the kids and the family and stuff, and you think, you know, and then you miss them and you miss them and you miss them, and then you get home and, like, within 2 minutes you wish you were back there. So I'm not saying it's easy. But what I am saying is that it's the family stuff that really is the point of the whole thing. And, like, for some people, family isn't your biological family, because sometimes your biological family might be a toxic, dysfunctional load of stuff you're actually best just to keep away from. It might just be some people around you that, you know, it just means get involved with other people. These are all good things. If I've learned one thing over the course of this series, it's that we need to enjoy the journey. Are you happy and content all the time? No, but no one is. Is your relationship perfect? No, but no one's got a perfect relationship. But you do your best. Life is messy for sure, but it's a journey, not a destination. It might be true that everything that we do is, it may all just be our genes creating this illusion of that we have a life and we have interests and we fall in love with people and that we build families and that we have children. That may just be our genes tricking us into this so that they can just make more of themselves. But I think, well, even if it is true, it's quite a nice illusion, and I'm quite happy to go with that. Good night, good luck, enjoy the ride.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.